Record-breaking contracts have transformed the NHL landscape, with players continuing to secure historic deals. From Alex Ovechkin's $124 million contract in 2008 to Connor McDavid's $100 million deal in 2017, and now Leon Draisaitl's $112 million extension, these record signings showcase the evolving financial dynamics in the NHL and increasing value of top talent. On this Showdown, we look at the top 10 biggest NHL contracts in history. While many of these signings came as no surprise, the dollar value of these contracts left us in envy. These contracts kept superstars on the ice while forcing teams to gamble everything on greatness. With big signings like Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby, hockey fans stayed glued to the games. But how did these massive contracts shape the future of the league behind the headlines? Join us as we unveil the 10 biggest signings over the last decade. Number 10. Leon Draisaitl. This offseason, the headlines dominated with Leon Draisaitl's 8-year extension with the Edmonton Oilers worth $112 million. This deal set a new record with the highest salary cap hit in NHL history at $14 million per year, and Draisaitl's contract is the second richest in total dollars in league history. What people may forget is that Leon Draisaitl signed a $68 million 8-year contract with the Edmonton Oilers in 2017. At that time, it was met with skepticism, as some questioned whether Draisaitl was worth the $8.5 million per year. However, this deal has since turned into one of the biggest bargains in the NHL. Draisaitl has blossomed into one of the league's elite forwards, winning the Hart Trophy in 2020 as the league's MVP and consistently ranking among the top point producers. Alongside Connor McDavid, Draisaitl forms the backbone of the Edmonton Oilers' offensive juggernaut. His versatility, center and wing, allows the Oilers to deploy multiple dynamic scoring lines. His elite level, combined with his relatively modest cap hit, gives Edmonton more flexibility to improve other areas of the roster. The deal has aged exceptionally well, with Draisaitl outperforming expectations. The best all-around players in the game. For the Oilers, Draisaitl's contract has provided excellent value, allowing them to remain competitive while managing their salary cap. His presence has been critical to Edmonton's push to become a consistent playoff contender. Number 9. Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid's contract was a watershed moment in NHL history. It was worth $100 million, making him the highest-paid player at $12.5 million per year. Signed when McDavid was just 20 years old, the deal was designed to keep the league's most electrifying player in Edmonton for the bulk of his career. The Oilers saw him as their franchise cornerstone, building their entire future around his unparalleled skill set. McDavid has certainly lived up to expectations, consistently ranking among the top point producers and winning multiple MVP awards. His ability to single-handedly dominate games is unparalleled, making this deal critical for the Oilers' competitive future. However, while McDavid's value is unquestionable, his high cap hit creates financial strain. The contract occupies a great portion of the Oilers' salary cap, limiting their ability to surround McDavid with sufficient talent. This has led to roster depth issues, with the team struggling to make deep playoff runs despite McDavid's excellence. His contract reflects a balancing act for Edmonton, paying a superstar to retain elite talent while grappling with cap constraints that make it difficult to build a championship-caliber team. All eyes will turn to McDavid next season when his contract comes to an end. Will McDavid follow in Wayne Gretzky's footsteps and head down south? We will have to wait and see. Number 8. Alex Ovechkin. When Alex Ovechkin signed his 13-year, $124 million contract in 2008, it was the largest contract in NHL history at the time, worth $9.5 million per year. Ovechkin, the face of the Washington Capitals and one of the most dynamic scorers in NHL history, was viewed as a player worth building a franchise around. His deal was a major gamble, but one that paid off in spectacular fashion. Ovechkin's contract has aged remarkably well. Despite the long-term commitment, he has continued to dominate, consistently leading the league in goals and climbing the NHL's all-time scoring charts. In 2018, Ovechkin fulfilled his promise by leading the Capitals to their first Stanley Cup, a defining moment in his career. His durability and production well into his 30s have justified Washington's investment, and he remains one of the most marketable and influential players in the game. The contract allowed the Capitals to maintain a competitive core while building around Ovechkin. Washington's ability to surround him with strong complementary players has been crucial to their sustained success. This deal is often cited as a model of how long-term contracts can work for both the player and the franchise. Number 7. Nathan McKinnon. Nathan McKinnon's 2016 contract with the Colorado Avalanche is widely considered one of the most team-friendly deals in modern NHL history. At $6.3 million per year, McKinnon has become one of the league's top players and a perennial MVP candidate, all while being paid far below his market value. When he signed the deal, McKinnon was an emerging talent, but his explosive growth in subsequent years made this contract an incredible bargain for the Avalanche. Since the contract was signed, McKinnon has consistently ranked among the NHL's scoring leaders, playing a pivotal role in transforming the Avalanche into one of the league's elite teams. His combination of speed, skill, and leadership culminated in Colorado's Stanley Cup victory in 2022, solidifying his place among the league's best players. Despite being one of the league's most impactful players, McKinnon's contract gave Colorado the financial flexibility to build a well-rounded roster capable of contending for multiple championships. This deal allowed the Avalanche to maintain a competitive window without sacrificing depth or flexibility, a perfect example of a team benefiting from locking in a star player before they fully hit their prime. Number 6. Sidney Crosby. In 2012, Sidney Crosby, already a Stanley Cup champion and Hart Trophy winner, signed a 12-year, $104.4 million contract to remain with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Out of $8.7 million per year, this deal was seen as a huge bargain. Given Crosby's status as one of the best players in the world, the Penguins' decision to lock in Crosby long-term secured their status as perennial contenders, allowing them to build a dynasty around him. Over the course of the contract, Crosby has delivered tremendous value. He has led the Penguins to multiple Stanley Cup victories, earning the Conn Smythe Trophy twice as playoff MVP. Crosby's leadership, playmaking, and clutch performances have cemented his legacy as one of the greatest players of all time. His cap-friendly deal enabled Pittsburgh to retain other core players like Evgeni Malkin and Chris Letang, helping maintain the team's competitive edge. The Penguins benefited immensely from Crosby's team-friendly contract, as it provided financial flexibility to acquire additional talent. This contract has been instrumental in the Penguins' success throughout the 2010s, ensuring that Crosby could continue leading the franchise through its most successful era. It doesn't hurt that Crosby is superstitious, and his annual contract value happens to be the same number on his jersey. Number 5. Duncan Keith. Duncan Keith's 13-year, $72 million contract, signed in 2009, was pivotal in shaping the Chicago Blackhawks dynasty of the 2010s. At the time, long-term contracts were relatively rare, but Chicago saw Keith as the anchor of their defense for years to come. The gamble paid off, as Keith's $5.5 million per year became a bargain for a player who would go on to win multiple Norris trophies as the NHL's top defenseman. Keith was instrumental in Chicago's 3 Stanley Cup championships in 2010, 2013, and 2015. His performance during the 2015 playoff run, where he won the Conn Smythe Trophy as the playoff MVP, showcased his value beyond just regular season contributions. His ability to play huge minutes in critical situations made him the linchpin of the Blackhawks' defensive core for over a decade. The length and size of Keith's contract allowed Chicago to keep other stars like Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane, building a dynasty around a strong, affordable core. While the deal eventually became cumbersome, as Keith aged, it remains one of the best long-term signings in NHL history due to the success it brought to the Blackhawks during his prime. Number 4. Zdeno Chara. When the Boston Bruins signed Zdeno Chara to a 7-year, $45.5 million contract in 2006, they made him the highest-paid defenseman in the NHL at the time. Chara, standing at 6 feet 9 inches, brought a unique combination of size, skill, and leadership that transformed the Bruins into a perennial contender. This deal not only solidified Boston's defense, but also gave them one of the most respected leaders in the league for nearly 2 decades. Chara's influence on and off the ice was immense, culminating in the Bruins' 2011 Stanley Cup win. He earned the Norris Trophy as the league's best defenseman in. Number 3. Evgeni Malkin. Evgeni Malkin's 8-year, $76 million extension in 2013 was another cornerstone deal for the Pittsburgh Penguins, ensuring that their dual superstar system with Sidney Crosby would remain intact. Malkin, who had already won a Hart Trophy and 2 Art Ross trophies, was locked in at an AAV of $9.5 million, slightly lower than Crosby's cap hit. This deal kept the Penguins' potent offensive punch intact and enabled Pittsburgh to remain competitive year after year.
Malkin's contributions to the Penguins are immense. During the contract's duration, Malkin helped lead the Penguins to back-to-back Stanley Cup championships.
Though injuries have limited Malkin's playing time in some seasons, his overall impact on the team has been significant. The Penguins' success throughout the 2010s is tied directly to Malkin's ability to elevate his game during critical moments, making this contract one of the best in terms of value for a franchise that needed both Crosby and Malkin to succeed. Number 2. Henrik Lundqvist. Henrik Lundqvist's 7-year, $59.5 million contract with the New York Rangers in 2013 marked the continuation of an era for one of the NHL's greatest goaltenders. Lundqvist had already established himself as the king by the time he signed this deal, with multiple Vezina Trophy nominations and a win in 2012. His $8.5 million AAV was one of the highest for a goaltender at the time, reflecting his elite status and importance to the Rangers. Lundqvist's performance during the contract lived up to expectations. He remained the backbone of the Rangers' defense, often single-handedly keeping the team competitive during their playoff runs. His crowning achievement came in 2014, when he led New York to the Stanley Cup Final, narrowly losing to the Los Angeles Kings. Lundqvist's consistency and ability to perform in high-pressure situations earned him widespread respect across the league. While Lundqvist never secured a Stanley Cup, his contract kept the Rangers competitive and relevant during an era of heavy competition. He was the cornerstone of the team's identity, and despite the high cap hit, the contract ensured stability in the Rangers' crease for years. Number 1. Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane. Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane's identical 8-year, $84 million contracts signed in 2014 were instrumental in keeping the Chicago Blackhawks dynasty intact. With AAVs of $10.5 million each, these deals made both players among the highest paid in the league, but the Blackhawks viewed it as necessary to retain their core stars, who had led them to multiple Stanley Cups. Toews, as the team's captain, and Kane as the team's offensive dynamo, were central to Chicago's 3 Stanley Cup victories in 2010, 2013, and 2015. Their leadership and playoff performances were invaluable, and these contracts solidified their long-term future with the team. Kane, in particular, has remained one of the NHL's most consistent scorers, while Toews' defensive prowess and leadership earned him widespread acclaim. However, these contracts came with challenges. The high cap hits limited Chicago's flexibility to retain other important players, eventually leading to the dismantling of the supporting cast that made the Blackhawks so successful. Despite this, the contracts ensured that the Blackhawks remained competitive for many years and secured 2 of the league's most iconic players throughout their primes. Which of these contracts were you surprised about? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see more hockey showdowns.